Hello, fellow pirates, and welcome to this week's This Is My Captain. The leader for this week is Red Green Luffy. If you're someone who likes to play aggressive and surprise your opponents with a lethal, then Red Green Luffy just might be the deck for you. But first, let's start with the leader effect, shall we? Activate main once per turn. You can rest 4 Dawn to set up one of your Supernovas or Straw Hat Crew type character cards with a cost of 5 or less as active, and then it gains 1k power during this turn. Really strong effect. It came in clutch in most games as one of your main ways of winning. There are a couple key cards that really take advantage of this. Those being Kid and Killer, with his when attacking, if your opponent has 2 or less life, this gains 2k power until end of turn. That is not a once per turn. So if you restand him, since he's a supernova, then you can swing again, and he's swinging for 9k instead of 7k. So that's one of the big ones. This Tony Chopper, the blocker chopper, has Dawn times 2 when attacking. It gives one of your opponent's characters minus 3k power. It's one of your main ways of getting rid of big beaters and key cards that your opponent has. I've used it multiple times to get over like a Gecko Moria that's attacked me, or get rid of, a whole host of other things. It also comes in clutch against the Blackbeard matchup too. Being able to put less Dawn on him and then minus 3k on a 10 cost Blackbeard means that they now have to give you a lot of counter or they lose that card. The other good one is you have things like Tony Chopper, this one, which I like to call the Summon Chopper, because it's on your turn, on play, or when he attacks, you look at the top 5, and then you can place one animal type character with a power of 4k or less. So there's multiple times where you can swing in with him for a large amount, restand him, still trying to go for lethal, but you still end up with progressing your board by getting 2 bodies instead of just 1. The only other one that I really used it with is Cavendish, but for the most part I try to use my Cavendish after as like a way of getting back to Dawn, because most of the time, if your opponent is able to counter out of the 2 big swings that you do, you then do a 6k with Cavendish, you get 2 Dawn back, and you can throw that on your leader to make your leader 7k and swing again. So you could do something at 10 Dawn where if you're swinging with, we'll say, this Tony Chopper, you're swinging with 6 Dawn on him, so he's going to be 11k for the first swing, and then you restand him with your last 4 Dawn. Now he's swinging for 12. You're getting 2 bodies. You swing with Cavendish for 6, then you're swinging with Leader for 7, and that's just if you have those 3 cards, your leader and those 2 characters. That by itself, you're progressing your board really well, and you're threatening for large lethals. We do run like this 5 cost law because he's really good with the animals. The main one that you really want to use him with is the Summon Chopper. The other good one that you can use him with is like you can restand one of your blocker choppers if you want to protect it. You can also bounce back like a Hiking Bear if you need a 2k. You also can play out a Nami if you need another search. So there's multiple really good cards in here that you can run with it. We're also running the 2 cost Sanji as just a extra aggressive tool. Most of the time when you play him, you want to play him on your first turn going second, which generally with this deck you do want to go second. And then most of the time they're going to use some of their good removal to try to get rid of him because he's just a 7k swing. We do run this 3 cost chopper as well, since it has a very relevant effect of Dawn times 1 when attacking, you can trash 1 card from your hand to add 1 Straw Hat Crew type character other than himself with a cost of 4 less to your hand. So I primarily use that as ways of either getting back Zoro or getting back Sanji. So that way then I either get back a 2K or I get back a rush that I can use later in the game to go for lethal. Like I had mentioned, we are running the Searcher Nami. Since most of the cards that we are running are Straw Hat Crew, we're able to get most of these cards off of a search, so we have a very high chance of always getting a hit. Only 3 copies of the Rush Zoro, because we're also only running 3 copies of the Kid Killer. Most of the time, the Animal Pirates is all that you need. You're only running the Kid Killer and the Zoro as means of finishing the game. We do still run the 4 Hiking Bear, since it's an animal. We are running 4 Cavendish, the 4 Law. We are running 4 copies of the 2-cost Tony Chopper, that's the film chopper, since it's a 2K that is a animal, and it has a relevant effect in some matchups. Being able to put a Dawn on it, attack, and then rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less means that you can rest most blockers that people play as just little chump blockers. We are running 1 copy of Zoro. I will admit, it never came up, and honestly, I would probably cut this. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what I would cut it for right now, but I don't think I've seen it at all. Most of the time, the only card that can really hit it, I think, is your Searcher Nami, but you're going to be doing so many top 5 searches with your chopper that there's a high chance that this is just going to be placed on the bottom of your deck and you're never going to see it. So feel free to cut this out if you don't want to play with it. The list that I had played is shout out to the Gold Standard. This is his list, and I liked it a lot, so I didn't end up making really any changes to it. So, but overall, I think that this was the one card that I kept debating about switching out. You are running 4 copies of the event Shut Up and Come With Us, because this is one of your best turn 1 plays if you don't get like the Sanji, because this is a Straw Hat Crew event that you can search off of the Nami, and it just immediately starts you with like a 3 cost right away. Because if you're going second and you're able to get 1 or 2 of these, then you have a high chance of getting the Summon Chopper or the Blocker Chopper and being able to just get the ball rolling right away on your 4 Dawn turn. We are running 3 copies of Diable Jambe. It's in here for 2 reasons. The first reason is being able to make one of our Straw Hat Crew unblockable means that we can make the Tony Chopper or the Zoro unblockable, and that's going to be our main ones that we'd target with it. But the other relevant effect is the trigger. Being able to just pop a blocker that's 3 cost or less means when you're playing into like green matchups, or you're near the end of the game and your opponent's starting to just wall up to try to defend themselves so they can beat you on the next turn, getting one of these off of your life is huge. And it came up, I think, 2 or 3 times in the 15 games that I had played. Overall, the deck did do well. It did really well, honestly, with a score of 7 wins and 8 losses this week. The deck is really good into Blue Dofi. I think I only lost once against Blue Dofi. But the downside is that you have pretty much a 0 100% chance of winning against Shanks. Those were the two decks that I primarily played against this week, but the Shanks matchup is just a nightmare because most of the time you're wanting to go for swings of 5k, and he's just constantly nulling out one of your swings and then playing big body that KOs one of your things over and over and over again, so there's nothing that you can do. This week for the games that I'll be showing you, I do have one against Blue Dofi, one against Purple Black King, and one against Vegapunk. If you like this type of content and you like seeing these old school leaders try to go against the new meta and rogue and all that, then please like, follow, subscribe. It really helps, and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, enjoy the games. Alright, so here we are for game 1 against Blue Dofi. So we have a really good starting hand here. We got 2 copies of the 1-cost event. We also opened with a copy of the 5-cost Law, the 2-cost Sanji, and a 3-cost Chopper. And then we just drew the Nami. But I know that he's going to want to attack me this turn, especially since he started off with Perona, which is perfect. We don't play the Nami because we can actually play both of the events this turn, and that's going to come in clutch. So being able to just get 2 free 3-cost bodies on my turn for my 2 Dawn is huge. We take that hit as well because it doesn't really matter at this point. And we did get one of our summon choppers, and then we just got one of the 4k choppers as well. So here I'm just thinking, I'm like, I want to go for board. I want to make sure that he gives me cards as soon as possible, and I'm just constantly removing stuff. So I attack with the summon chopper first. I get a hiking bear. He gives me a 1k. I'm like, okay, I will attach 1 Dawn, swing, making sure that there's nothing in grave. It's something that I try to keep track of all the time. He does give me another 1k for that, and then I swing 5k again. He gives me a third 1k, so I got 3 cards out of his hand because he wants to protect that Jinbei. And here I play another summon chopper and I get another hiking bear. So immediately on my second turn with only 4 Dawn, I have 5 characters on the board to his 3, and I can potentially get another 2 characters during my turn unless he clears one of my summon choppers, and he also needs to be clearing my board. So that's what makes this matchup really good for us, is even though we're playing lower powered characters overall, because we're able to swarm the board faster than him, we can keep his board pressured and then just go for lethal whenever we want. So here they play the 4-cost Boa. They use its effect to look at the top 3. They place them on the bottom. Or no, they place them on the top. And then they use the attach 1 to the Jinbei to be able to swing for 6 into my summon chopper, so I just give him a 2k. So here I know that I don't really have enough to be able to counter out of another 6k swing on that chopper, so I just give it to him. And then they swing 6 into that chopper as well. I'm like, okay, I still have both of my hiking bears, so there is a really cool combo with hiking bear, but I only have 6 Dawn here, and I have 3 copies of the 5-cost Law, so I just attach 1 Dawn to the chopper. I swing in for 6 into their Jinbei. I do get one of the blocker choppers. I swing 5 into their Jinbei. And I decide right here, I'm thinking, so I know that I want to play this law, but what am I going to bounce? So I could bounce the blocker chopper, make sure that that stays alive, because that's one of our main ways of getting rid of their characters, because we can just minus 3k stuff, which is what I do. The other option was to do the combo with the summon chopper, but we already have a full board, so there's no reason for us to do that. So we pass the turn, and they only have 2 cards left in hand right now. They're still on 5 life, but that's irrelevant. As long as we keep control of their board, that's what matters. So they do swing, use leader effect. They do get a Mihawk off the top, and we just let that summon chopper go. So now they're not going to be able to attack any of our board anymore, because we have nothing else rested. So now they're just going to go for leader. And I debated for a second. I'm like, okay, I could block, give 1k with this law, but then they could just use the boa and attack into it and clear it. So I just take the life. The goal is, as far as our life is concerned, try to keep 1 life at all time, because Perfume Femur is a card, and that is a card that we are scared of. We kind of rely on our blocker laws a lot, or our blocker choppers. So here they're going for 6k, and I decided that I'm just going to give 2 cards in my hand, give my last 2 1k counters up, rather than block with the law, because it still would have been 2 cards for it. So here there is a combo with 2 hiking bears. They can give each other 1k power, because it just says a animal type character other than itself. So with 1 Dawn investment into both of them, they become 5k characters. Nice little trick that I learned with this deck is that little combo right there. So I swing into the Mihawk, they give me a 1k. I swing in again to the Mihawk, that clears it. I attach a Dawn, I swing into their Weevil, and they give me counter again. So then this time I just go with Law. I'm taking either the Boa or the Weevil with that attack. And then I swing with the blocker chopper, just clear another character off their board, and then I play another Law. And here I just, again, I bounce this blocker chopper. I know how important it is in this matchup, and the only way that they can really get rid of it, if I'm bouncing it and restanding it, is through Raging Tiger or Red Rock. So if they want to waste their entire turn to do that, so be it. So here they go Perfume Femur. They top decked it, but we're still at 2 life. So they swing 13. They did get lucky. They got the Boa. We can't use blocker. We definitely don't have enough counter, so we take this life, and we are fine with that. So now on our turn, we do the hiking bear combo again. And then I'm just thinking, okay, so how do I want to do this? First, I want to attach a Dawn. I want to get rid of this Boa. I want to make sure that they don't have any way of saving it. So Boa's gone. I then swing 5k at lead. They have no cards in hand, so they have to take. I still have 7 Dawn, and I'm just thinking, okay, so how exactly do I want to do this? So I attach 2 to the blocker chopper, use its effect to minus 3k their Boa, so that way then they can't just block and use counter. They take that, swing another 5, they take that. I have 5 Dawn left, so I swing another 6. And here I'm thinking, okay, so they probably got a trigger. What are they going to do? What trigger could they have that would be impactful? So Raging Tiger, they could put the law on the bottom, so that's what they do. But I left 5 Dawn up specifically for this, so I could reset. I was thinking about going this Zoro, because he's just a 5k rush right now that I could just do for free. But I valued the extra blocker just a little bit more, because I'm only at 1 life right now. Yeah, the 1k counter in hand could be valuable, but I could just block out an entire tech. The only card that I'm really worried about is Perfume Femur. So here they got 4 cards in hand. They're down to 1 life. The game is pretty much in the point where they need to beat me this turn or I win. And that's what we want to be at. So I'm just thinking here, I'm like, what cards could they really have that could be dangerous? So if they do have another Raging Tiger, they could play it, get rid of both of our blockers that are up, and then still be able to attack for a lot. Instead, they try to go for board. So as soon as they started going for board, I realized, okay, so they're trying to just set up a couple more blockers and trying to defend this. So I will just use my counter here to save this law to guarantee that they can't just block her up, because we're still just going to win. So then they play Jozu, they bounce one of our blockers, but at this point the writing is on the wall. We do the Hiker Bear combo again, and then we attach 2 Dawn to our chopper. We swing in for 6, minus 3k to their blocker, so that way then they can't save it. They 2k out, that's completely fine. We attach a Dawn to this blocker law, swing 7. They just block out of that. So then we swing 5 with one of the bears. They 1k out, swing 5 with one of the bears. They take that, and at this point we're like, perfect, we have them where we want them. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, so let's not mess this up. I'll swing 5k with leader again, and they give me a 2k. I'm like, perfect. I made the mistake right there. I meant to attach that to the law. I still swing for 8, but we would have been swinging for 9 if I didn't misclick. So potentially we would have lost there if they had 2 2Ks, because then they would have had that 7k swing, which we wouldn't have been able to get out of, and then just a big 15k with lead. But that is game 1, so now we'll go on to game. Alright, on to game number 2. So for game 2, we are against Purple Black King. So this is my first time going against this leader, but we do have a really good hand here. So they started their first turn doing nothing. We didn't do anything either, because we had the 1 cost event. Their turn, they play Onigashima, get the free Dawn, and then attack us. So then we get the summon chopper off of the event, and now we're in a real good position. So we start off with the swing with the summon chopper. We do get a blocker chopper, and they do give us a 1k. So here we go just with the 5k swing. The reason being is that I do kind of want to play Nami here. So they did get Ice Age to be able to KO our summon chopper, which is fine. But we do end up finding another summon chopper off of the Nami, which is huge. And then off of that summon chopper, we can either get a hiking bear here or we can get the 4k chopper. So we just get the 4k. We pass the turn, they use Onigashima, they get a Dawn, and right now they have 6 Dawn that they can use. They do play the Searcher Queen, so, and then they draw a Kaido, the 9-cost Kaido, and then they play out the 5-cost Queen blocker, and they discard a 9-cost Kaido. So they are only at 6 Dawn here, but they would have been down to only like 5 this turn if they didn't have that stage. So after that, they do swing, we countered out, and then they pass turn. So now we're starting off with a 6k swing with our summon chopper. We get a hiking bear. They do counter out of that one, just giving us a 2k Black Maria. And then I'm just thinking, so I can just attack with this chopper, which is what I do, and I minus 3k to their queen, so that way then they can't just use the queen to be able to counter out easier. Here they give us another 2k. We're like, that's fine. I swing another 6, and I'm looking at my hand, I'm like, I can just discard this 4k chopper to get a 2k, try to just protect my board a little bit better. They end up taking that one, we swing another 6, they just give us that 3k blocker queen now, and we got 2 cards out of their hand, plus their 6k blocker, because we made it down to a 3k. They're down to 2 life now as well. So this is pretty huge. They then play the Jack, and they use Jack's effect. And I'm pretty sure that they pop the summon chopper right here. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, that Jack needs to be removed because that's going to be something that they can use a lot. And they attach 1 Dawn to the queen and try to go for the hiking bear. So here I'm like, Cavendish is just a little bit too much to play now, so I'll just use it to counter out. And then they swing 5k into the hiking bear. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so I would have to give up 2 2ks for this, which I do. But I want to keep this hiking bear because I feel like it's going to be necessary to save my board. So here we're just reading it, making sure. So I attach 3 Dawn to our Tony chopper, use its effect to make that into a 5k Jack, and I'm swinging 7 into 5. So they're going to have to give me 2 cards out of hand. But the bigger thing is that opens up being able to swing 5ks into it if they wanted to keep it. So here I'm just thinking, I'm like, I can just use this Dawn, be able to swing 5k with the 4k chopper by attaching 1 to the hiking bear. And then I'm just going to use the hiking bear to be able to clear out their last character on the board. I have 4 Dawn left, so I'm going to attach 1, swing 6 with lead. So I demand either a 1 card out of their hand, which is a 2k, or they give me their life, so they give me another 2k. And then here I just play another summon chopper. I don't really see anything that I really want. Maybe that 2k chopper, but I decide to just say no. Because I still have this Nami here. There's no real reason to swap it out with that chopper. So they play another Jack. They use its effect. And I'm thinking, okay, so are they going to go for the summon chopper KO again? Or are they going to go for the blocker chopper, so that way then they can guarantee that I can't do the same play as last turn? But they go for the summon chopper, so I'm like, okay, I have 3k in counter. I need to make sure that I protect this blocker chopper. Luckily, they go for a swing of 6k, which is just enough that we can guard out and be able to save it. So they do have 1 Dawn left back. They use leader effect again to draw a card, and we're like, okay, so they probably have a giant here, but we're going to demand that giant right now by swinging with the blocker chopper for 7k again. And this is what I mean by, like, this blocker chopper is kind of your big way of just winning these type of matches that are more control heavy, because you're just constantly putting their big game, like late game all-stars, you're putting them in a disadvantage that they don't want to have. So here we're swinging 5 into it since they countered out. Now they have to give it to us. And then we're just going 5k again into lead. They give us a 1k. We're like, okay, so we'll just swing 5k into lead again. They go down to 1 life. So then we just play out this 5 cost loss, so that way then we can basically restand the chopper, so that way then we can protect it in case they decide to play another big character again, like another Jack. And they do play another big character. They play a Kaido, the 9 cost purple Kaido that pops a 6 cost or less and then gains rush. So they pop the law there, and we're like, okay, I mean, the law is 6k compared to the 4k chopper, but I could still just clear. But I took a second and I thought, I'm like, okay, there's a high chance that I can just win the game next turn. So they use King effect again, and I'm like, I feel safe no matter what. They're at 3 Dawn. They'll be at 5 Dawn next turn. So I'm just doing math in my head on how many Dawn can I use right now. So I start off with a swing of 7k with leader, because I need 4 Dawn to be able to restand. They do take, so I'm like, okay, so I'm just going for lethal here. I do a swing of 8k, and they concede. So as you see, they didn't have any counter left in hand, but even if they did have some counter to get out of that one, I would be able to restand it and swing for 9k. So it would have, the first attack would have demanded at minimum 2 cards, the second attack would have demanded all 3, and that's if they had a total of, you know, four 2Ks and a 1K, or 3 2Ks and 2 1Ks. So this is a prime showcase of what I mean by that blocker chopper is very strong for your game plan. But after this, we are on to game number 3. Alright, so now we're in game number 3. This time we are against Vegapunk, and they start first. They use their 1 Dawn, they play out the 5-cost Luffy. So that is kind of a scarier card for us, so we just decide that, hey, we're just going to play out the 2-cost Sanji, show that we're going to be aggressive this game, and see if we can bait them into using that Luffy effect to be able to pop our Sanji. They use Darashishi to be able to draw 2 triggers, and then they swing 6 at us, and we just take that. And then they do use the Luffy right there to pop our Sanji, and that's like perfect. Now we don't have to deal with that right now. So on our first attack turn, we can go 6k. They're gonna have to give us a 2k. They got a Lilith off of their life, so they searched a Shaka. So then we play the summon chopper. We get one of the little film choppers, but that film chopper can help in matchups like this that are more control heavy if they are playing like the 2-cost blockers and things like that. So here they just go 7k into that chopper, and we freely give it up. There's no way that we would ever want to even block that. So here we play the Cavendish. We have 3 Dawn up, so I'm just thinking, do I want to use that Dawn for attacking? I decide not to. We get another of that chopper. They take the life, so that way then they can get the Shaka. We only swing 5 here, and they give us a 2k. And then we play the blocker chopper. So I'm kind of surprised that they didn't block with the Shaka, but I guess that they just wanted to give a card instead of using the free block. So here they use leader effect, they put a Lilith on top, they play a Lilith, like hard play a Lilith. They got another Shaka off of it, and then they just attached the Dawn to their Lilith, swung in. They're able to restand their Shaka, so they just swing 6k into our lead, and I just counter out by using a 2k. They restand the Shaka, and I'm like, okay, we're at 8 Dawn here, technically, or we're kind of at 10 Dawn if you count Cavendish. So I'm just doing math. How exactly am I going to get past this? So I start off, attach 3 Dawn, swing for 7k, minus 3k their Shaka. So they're either going to block with a Shaka, give me 2 cards, or just let me take that life. And I'm like, that's perfectly fine right there. So here, I'm just going to attach 2 to the summon chopper, swing, we get a hiking bear, and again, it's the same position. They're either going to lose that blocker Shaka, or they're going to give me 2 cards out of hand. So they did give me 2 cards out of hand. I play the blocker chopper, and then I swing in with Cavendish to restand 2 Dawn. So here, they could just 2k out, which they do. And then I only swing for 6 with lead because I want to keep 1 Dawn up for my event in case they decide to go more board focused and just start removing my board, because I only have 2k in counter. They do put the annoying please save me event on their life that reborns from the grave. and then they play out a Luffy, and they start attaching their Dawn, and they're just going 6Ks. So I took the one for life. They then kill one of my blocker choppers, and I counter out of that one. I did make the misplay there. I left that one Dawn up. I meant to play the event, but I was more worried about, like, why weren't they going for board? Especially since they're only down to 3 cards left in hand. And they didn't even use Luffy effect to be able to pop, like, my summon chopper. So it all just confused me a little bit how they were doing that. And then here I'm just going, so I have 10 Dawn. I'm like, let me attach 1 to Hiking Bear, and then attach 1 to my Summon Chopper, so that way then he can swing for 7. They get a Shaka using that event. I attach 3 to Blocker Chopper so that I can minus 3k that Shaka. They take that life as well. So that means that they most likely have a lot of bricks in their hand. And here I'm just thinking, how can I go for lethal? So I start off with a 5k swing. So they're a 1k out of that. I use effect. I restand the Summon Chopper, and then I swing with Cavendish. That way then I'm swinging for 6 here, and I'm restanding 2 Dawn. They do give me the blocker. I swing for 7 here, so this would require 2 cards out of their hand, a 2k and a 1k. And then I still have a 8k swing with that Summon Chopper. So no matter what, they were not going to survive that turn. And that's what I mean by this leader effect can surprise your opponent by you getting lethal out of nowhere. I do feel that he should have focused more on the board, and if he did, then there's a high chance that he probably would have won that, especially since both of the cards in our life were Summon Choppers. So we wouldn't have been able to have any counter in hand. But we did have 2 Kitten Killers, so on our turn we still could have presented for almost lethal, and then on the following turn, as long as we were able to survive, we would have had lethal no matter what. But all in all, very close game, very fun game. That is the games that I had for you for this week. If you liked them, please like, follow, subscribe. It does truly mean a lot. Have a good rest of your guys' days, and have fun playing the One Piece TCG like I do.